is working overtime with this whole Trump thing. Trey Harden, ABC News political analyst. Good morning, Trey Harden.
Good morning, McGraw. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning.
Of all the things to criticize Donald Trump over, I fail to realize why the criticism or why the big story of the firing of Corey Lewandowski.
Well, I don't know if there's criticism of it. I mean, at least that's not what I've read. And I guess the reason it's a big story is because, and let's face it, anything the guy does or says or anything that either of these candidates or campaigns are doing is news. I mean, we're in the 24-hour news cycle, and the media is looking for everything they can on what is really going to be kind of a historic campaign, because you're talking about the two most unpopular politicians or candidates really ever to run for this office that are the nominees of both parties. So, I think a lot of people, now that Trump has obviously secured the nomination a while ago, but now that the campaigns are really kind of getting into the general election mode, they want to know where his campaign stands on things and how, if it's ready, because clearly he has gotten to this point solely based on his celebrity status, because he hasn't had to spend that much money. He hasn't really had to have an organization. But I think most of the media is smart enough to know that when you're in a presidential race, you still have to have a lot of the traditional components of a political campaign to reach certain constituencies. Otherwise, you don't stand a chance.
So in that sense, I thought it was a smart move on Donald Trump. He needs somebody with experience, somebody who knows what they're doing, an adult in the room, so that he can pretend or present himself as somebody who doesn't have any experience.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly right. But that's why I'm not sure that I've been maybe I just haven't been reading the same articles about where there's criticism of him. I think it's again probably more humorous, because we're so used to hearing him say you're fired on TV, and now he literally has said it to his own campaign manager. I guess it's not surprising at the end of the day. I mean, Corey Lewandowski is someone that was way in above his head, and he was at the right place at the right time, and was willing to kiss Donald Trump's over a year ago, before even Donald Trump was thinking of running, and when people thought it was actually a joke. He was probably the only one that would even consider working for him. No one else in the Republican operative world would have thought about it. So he was there from the beginning, and Trump was loyal to him to a point, and to the end. But yet now the big boys have to take over. So you're exactly right. I mean, he's got to, you got to remember, Trump is already starting at a significant disadvantage in terms of organizationally and the traditional components of a political campaign, because of the different voting constituencies he's so challenged with: women, minorities, many independent voters. Frankly, we've talked about it, even voters in his own party he doesn't know, has a lot of work to do. So he's getting a late start on this organization front, but he's even later because of how challenged he is with those key voting constituencies.
What do you make, Trey Harden, of this delegate sort of story where they're trying to change the rules to have them put in a conscience clause to unbound the delegates at the convention?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, all of this stuff that's going on at the convention. At the end of the day, I think it's not going to impact. It's really not going to impact one thing. Voters are going to make up their minds in November, and it's one of those inside baseball things that I don't think the majority of Americans, majority of voters, are going to ultimately probably care about, or is going to really impact their vote. And but I do think the convention is going to be an interesting place to be this year. There's no question.
Trey Harden, here's a baseball politics question. Just because you change managers doesn't mean you get better players. So now he's going to change the manager of the campaign. Is Donald Trump all of a sudden going to learn to play within the rules and be more of a traditional candidate?
Well, I mean, I would say that his speech, the speech he gave the other night, I guess on June 7th, the last night of all of the elections, where, yes, he read off a teleprompter, but, I mean, that was surprising to see. It was the first time I think I've ever seen him act like a real candidate, and it was the step in the right direction for him. And clearly someone other than Corey Lewandowski had an influence on him to do that. So we shall see, but I'm not holding my breath on the fact that if someone says something that he doesn't like or his ego is going to actually play a bigger influence, that he's not going to say something that you would cringe for as a campaign manager.
That is Trey Harden. Trey, have a good week. Thanks for checking in.
You too. Take care.
625 here, Big 550,